Hey H&K fans, James here with another Target of Opportunity video from H&K's Gray Room in Columbus, Georgia. Wanted to showcase you some more MP7 related material because it's always in demand. You know, I've got two really thorough MP7 series videos on my channel you should go check out if you want very detailed information. But I'd be remiss if I didn't really take a look at these because obviously in the Gray Room they've got examples of all three variants, and this one that I hold in my hand is probably the one that people know the least of. This is the original MP7. There were very few of these that were ever produced, and this is one of just a handful that were imported into the US before they moved on to the A1 designation. The way you can tell this, besides the marking on the receiver, is it has a larger rear butt pad than what we've seen on the earlier guns. And if you look at the grip, not only will you notice that it doesn't have the actual model designation on there, but it's got the earlier grip texture off of the USP design, whereas in the later models they went with a grip texture towards the P2000, and that just relates to the time frame that the weapons were being developed and what other handguns they had. Also, a little bit more difficult to notice is the angle of the grip is more straight and it's actually more narrow in here. So the magazines on these original MP7s, they were only offered in 20 round magazines. When they came out with the MP7A1, they then offered a 20, a 30, and a 40 round magazine, but the magazine itself has been redesigned. So you can tell the 20 round mags from on the A1s and A2s, differing from the original MP7 is those mags have an A for the A1 or A2 variant. And so it'll fit, it won't seat inside this original MP7, and the original MP7 mag will not fit in the magazine well of the later models. So that's your earlier designation. Moving on to the A1 variant, what we had with those was a adaptation again to allow the 20 and 30 round and 40 round magazines. You had a change here with the stock. And for the KSK, who wanted more length of pull options, they came up with a multi-position stock that had, instead of just all the way open and all the way closed, you had multiple positions for different length of pull adjustment. This one obviously is the clear cutaway that they use for the training classes, which is neat because you can see some of the functionality. So as most people know, if you've learned about the MP7, it uses an adapted short stroke piston operation that they based off the original G36 design. We've seen the HK416, the pistons up here at the front of the gas block, but because of the more compact dimensions in the MP7, there was no need for an operating rod to work between the piston and the bolt carrier. They just have the end of the bolt carrier making contact with the piston there. You can also see inside here the rotating bolt that you would be familiar with the G36 and HK416, which can rotate there. And as the bolt goes back to rear, you can see in here the hammer is cocked back in the rear position. I put it on fire. You can see that the trigger moving forward, or I'm sorry, trigger moving back pulls the trigger bar forward. That releases the semi-automatic steer and the hammer moving forward. So really cool to get to take a look at the cutaway models. And this one also has the B&T suppressor that was designed specifically for the 4.6 millimeter cartridge. It's the only suppressor that I've been aware of that is dedicated specifically for the MP7 series. And what's unique about this one as well is it has this special ratcheting device that allows you to always return the suppressor to the same exact position, so you don't have to re-BZO your weapon every time you take your suppressor and put it back on again. It's always going to return to that same spot for point aim, point impact shift. So very cool to see that. And then lastly, we'll showcase the MP7A2. This is the latest update. Obviously, most noticeable on this one is the RAW 8000 color option that's now available. You can also get these in black. The main difference from the MP7A2 was a requirement coming from some of the special operations users that did not want the fixed folding grip. So they had that removed and instead put this U-shaped Picatinny section that has it at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock settings, so that you could put a vertical grip on there or any other kind of accessories if you wanted to. And of note here, you'll see that there's kind of this oval shaped cutout on the left and right side of those accessory rails, and that's to interface with the male portion of a special HK holster system. The holster is modular. You can mount it as a thigh rig, as a hip rig, or up in a shoulder holster system, but it clips into the shoulder holster rig, and then there's a thumb release here that actuates and releases the weapon off and into action. So that's what you see there. Other noticeable addition here is the Aimpoint T1 optic that has this kind of bronze colored front and rear hood that's attached to the actual mount. And this came off of the G28 rifle, where this was a secondary optic for close range on top of the long range Schmidt & Bender optic. And the reason for this hood was to help break down glare that would be on the optic. They've carried this over for the MP7. Looks really cool. The last thing I would showcase here, you've probably never seen before, is this dust cover design. They had these weapons being used by special operations forces in Afghanistan, and one of the criticisms they were having was dirt getting into the action of the weapon, and they needed kind of an off-the-shelf solution to provide to them in rapid order. So they came up with this very simple design. You can see it's just a simple piece of polymer that fits in the actual ejection port. It's held in place by a very simple piece of cord, and when the weapon is on safe, it's locked in position. But once you put the weapon on fire, then either firing the weapon, the action moving back and forth, or just simply pulling on it will move that dust cover out of place. So pretty neat to see that as just a simple a quick urgent need solution for the MP7A2. So hope you enjoyed getting to take a quick look at the MP7 series on display in H&K's Gray Room.